Welcome back, everybody, to the Even Your Dynasty show.
We just got breaking news in.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Even Your Dynasty show. Sorry, everyone, for the tech delays. My PC decided to be about as useful as the Giants offense on a Justin Verlander start. So, we'll see how this lasts. Hopefully it makes it through the show for you guys. If not, these two guys will hold down the fort tonight. But yeah, what's up, guys?
That was a fun exorcism we had to perform on your computer, buddy. But I'm glad we're up and running.
Yeah. Use Joe Boo, wake up PC.
We took a field trip deep into the cave tonight.
Yeah. So what's up to Gollum and everything. We're good now.
Yeah, this is what happens when I hang out in Dan's cave too long. It just stops working.
It's not good reception in here.
Yeah. But yeah, so we've got a lot to talk about today. Obviously it's an off day. Giants came off a game that we'll just all try and purge from our memory. That was a pretty rough one. I think anytime Mikey Yastrzemski's pitching, that's not ideal. But at the end of the day, since we did our last show, they took 2 of 3 from the Las Vegas A's of Sacramento and 2 of 3 from Philadelphia, which, even though Oracle Park's been kind of a house of horrors for the Phillies, I still take 2 of 3 out of that or off that team any day of the week.
All day.
And the Dodgers are riding a 6-game skid. Giants just picked up, 4 games in the last 6 days. So they've got a little bit, they're 5 back in the division. They've got a little bit of an opportunity here that they can go into the break with some momentum. So we'll see how that goes. But, what'd you guys think of the games this past week?
I think you nailed it right there. I mean, you'll take a winning series against Philadelphia all day. I mean, like Joe mentioned, losing 13-0 against anybody at any time is definitely not ideal. I think that insane walk-off by Bailey might have took a little bit of toll emotionally on the guys. But no, I mean, back-to-back series that you win, you'll take that all day. And then going up against an LA team that's on a losing streak, you just got to try to ride the momentum throughout it. So it'll be a good upcoming weekend. But no, just in general, there's a lot of good to be positive about, be happy about. I mean, just in general, it was a sloppy game yesterday all around. So, but prior to that, there really wasn't much to complain about. Offense started to come through a little bit. You like to see some of the guys get a little bit more consistent. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with winning the series.
Yeah, for sure. And even dating back to the final 2 games of the Arizona series, I think we're starting to see the offense show little bits of signs of life and not looking absolutely defeated every at bat. Obviously we got to see Chapman return for the Sacramento A's series. We got to see Schmidt return for this series, and you're just seeing the lineup get lengthened a little bit. I don't really take too much out of the 13-0 loss. I think we all kind of saw that one being chalked up as an L, especially after the way the Bailey walk-off game ended. A lot of times you see teams on that high, then they come way back down to earth, especially a day game after a night game. And then honestly, like everybody's mentioning, just Verlander starts in general. It always seems like even in some of these games when he's pitched well, it's like, he gives up 1 or 2, even if they're not his fault. He gives up 1 or 2 early, and then it's like the offense just lays down and does nothing the rest of the game. And you're basically working with no runs or 1 run, seems like just about every time he starts a game for us. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I think they're trending in the right direction. You're getting the Dodgers in here at a good time. They're coming off losing, I believe, 6 in a row now. They just got it handed to them by the Brewers in Milwaukee. Now they come in here struggling a little bit offensively. And then you look at pitching matchups, they have Dustin May coming in for game 1. He hasn't had that great of a season. You have Ohtani, who's maxing out at 2 innings and 30 pitches right now. So you have a chance to really get deep into their bullpen and wear them out in the middle of the series. And then you finish off with Yamamoto, who they did very well against last time when Webb faced him. So they have a chance to get a little bit greedy here and gain some of that ground back that they lost during their losing streak right before the All-Star break hits.
Yeah, winning a series against LA as they're on this skid would be amazing, as you approach the All-Star break. So, I mean, if you can get at least 2, it's going to be a good thing. But like you said, I think Verlander is as cursed as Cody's computer. It's a pretty good comparison right there, because for whatever reason, I mean, if we hit good, he pitches bad. If he pitches good, we hit bad. It just you can't do it with him on the mound. I don't get it. But
and then you pitch good, and then he pitches good, and the offense gives him some run supports, and then Ryan Walker happens.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And just so everybody is aware, the Giants are currently also, just to tack on to where they're at, given that we're kind of approaching the end of the first half here. They are currently in the 3rd wild card spot, 1 game ahead of San Diego and St. Louis. So, take a series against LA. There's a if you win the series against LA coming up, there's a good chance you're going to go into the All-Star break at least in in a playoff position going into the All-Star break. And you finally got a clean bill of health, it feels like. Go into the second half with momentum and try and go from there. I mean, we've looked ahead at the schedule in the past. I know August or the second half is not going to be the most friendly schedule, but I guess the positive way to look at that is the Giants have actually been pretty good against teams above 500 this season. It's been the teams that are kind of at the bottom of the league that they've struggled with for whatever reason. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a big series. I mean, obviously, if they lose this series, it's not going to bury them on the season. There's a lot of games left, but it feels like it's a big series for them to, whether you want to put it as send a message, climb back into the division, just position yourself well going into the second half, have momentum. I mean, for whatever way you want to put it, I mean, it's a big series, and really, the Giants have lined up their 3 best starters right now. I mean, I know Roop got knocked around last time against LA, which I love them giving him a shot to kind of redeem himself. But you've got Webb, Roop, and Ray like that. Those are your 3 bullets.
Well, and then to that point, not only are you bringing out your 3 best starters, but this is probably the healthiest the team has been in 2 or 3 months. So there's really no excuse to not come out and perform. So yeah, I mean, all eyes are going to be on him. It's going to be a great series, but as you mentioned, that's probably why it feels like even a more important series, because if you want to capitalize on beating LA and taking a series from them, prior to going to the All-Star break or just in general on the year, like this is your time to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And, even looking at their schedule upcoming after the All-Star break, you look at it, and while I wouldn't say it's a cakewalk at all, I wouldn't say, it's the hardest schedule ever. You do have to go up into Toronto for 3. They're a hot team right now. But when you also look at their season as a whole, they're kind of up until recently where they won, I believe, 10 in a row. They're kind of a team that looks a little fraudulent on paper when you look at who they are as a team and their run differential. They're not really limiting other teams from scoring runs compared to how many runs they're scoring themselves. I wouldn't say they're a great team. They're honestly a team that looks a lot better than I feel like they really have been all season. And, honestly, that might be a tough schedule, but maybe, hey, the All-Star break halts their momentum a little bit. But then after that, you have Atlanta for 3, who, yes, they are a better team at home, but they're really reeling overall. I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, the Marlins just passed them in the standings, and I think are 2 or 3 games up on them right now. So I mean, at some point, if we talk about Miami one way, we got to talk about Atlanta the same way. Everybody said, oh, wait until they get all their guys back. Well, they've been basically the same team. They haven't pitched that great and have not been a super solid team by any means since, Acuna and Strider and all those guys came back. And then after that, you have 3 at home versus the Mets, 3 at home versus the Pirates, and then you go and do the same thing on the road. 3 against the Mets, 3 against the Pirates. So ultimately, if you have any aspirations of making a deep postseason run, I mean, you got to handle these teams. These are not world beaters. This isn't the Dodgers like you have for the next 3 games. You have Toronto, who was a pretty mediocre team before this 10 game stretch that they had. You have Atlanta, who's a bottom feeder team right now in the National League. You have the Pirates, who are not a good team. They pitch well, but they don't hit at all. And then you have the Mets, who are one of the better teams in the NL. So, I mean, it's not the toughest schedule in the world. At the end of the day, you gotta at least go 500 against the Mets, and you got to be able to handle the Pirates and the Braves.
Yeah, and after that second series against the Pirates, you get the Nationals again and at home.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
The rest of August is going to be a bit rough, though. Looking beyond that, you get a lot of Padres games, some Brewers, Cubs, Orioles kind of stink. Rays have been good, so it gets a little bit tough
for sure.
Y'all found me eventually.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, Rob? But yeah, so let's kind of just taking a look. We mentioned teams finally healthy, rosters taking shape a little bit. We're gonna get into kind of some first base, the lineup and the construction of that. We'll get into that here in a few minutes. But looking just at the bill of health, you finally got Casey's back, Chapman's back this week. So Chapman's back at third. Casey's took over at second, as we all kind of knew he was going to. You've seen Fitzgerald's back in Sacramento, so they're keeping Wisely up for now. I'd imagine that's going to last until Koss is back, and Koss was showing enough that he's earned being one of the bench guys, at least for the time being. Given how he was playing probably the last 2 weeks before he injured his hamstring. Other than that, I mean, we're still looking at a couple holes. It feels like the backup catcher is a bit of a hole, right? I love Luis Matos. I don't think him playing 3 games every 2 weeks or whatever is really going to do him any good. He got to play a good amount this last week, given all the lefties they faced. His at-bats just don't look great right now. Probably need to get themselves a better bench outfielder. So that's something I think they should be looking at. But, Devers is kind of struggling with a groin and back injury. But, other than that, I mean, they've got their guys. Their guys are at least all in the lineup. Now, how healthy are they? That remains to be seen, but they're in the lineup. And, like Dan said, this is the healthiest they've probably been all season at this point. So they've got to start winning some games. They got to start. It's time to go. Like Buster said a month or whatever it was ago. It's time to go now. You got your guys back. It's go time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, really, there's only so much you can really do with the team as currently constructed. Like you said, Luis Matos is definitely somebody I wanted to bring up. I think we all still have a certain level of belief in the guy, but the role he's currently in is just not for him. We've seen it how many times now. Giving him 2 starts a week max is just not going to work for him. He's a great contact hitter, but you're seeing him strike out way too much because he's swinging at uncompetitive pitches right now. There's total waste pitches that are getting thrown almost eye level to him, and he's still swinging through them with 2 strikes. And it's like at some point we have to make an adjustment there. And I just don't see that adjustment being made when the at-bats are so spread out for him. Ultimately, that's a role that you just need a veteran guy with the experience to take over, because you cannot just have a consistent dud in your lineup every time you face a left-handed pitcher. And that's really part of the problem there is, it's not easy have a young player plug into that role against left-handed pitching, and you just can't do it. You have it there, and then you see like a Kisner in those starts as well. A lot of times, you see it too often where the Giants have like 3 complete duds in their lineup, and this is all while you have Rafael Devers right now striking out at like a 33% clip since he's joined the Giants. And that's amongst other guys too, like Jung-Hoo Lee. We saw a little sign of life out of him in the Diamondback series, and you saw a little bit of it in the A's series, and then he kind of came back down to earth a little bit again against the Phillies. So they just got to have a little stability there. I 100% believe that Devers will come back down to earth and actually play like himself. He did this in early April with the Red Sox and was honestly even worse than he is right now, if you can believe that. So I think he'll rebound, and at some point, I 100% believe he's going to end up carrying this team for like a 2-week stretch and be on absolute fire. But yeah, I mean, just adding at least 1 or 2 bench bats would be huge. Do they probably do 2? Probably not. At this point, it doesn't really seem like there's much urgency to add at backup catcher other than maybe bringing up Austin Barnes, who they signed recently. But the outfielder, I definitely think is a must. And then I still think they need to add to the pitching side, both in the rotation and in the bullpen. I think those are huge needs if they can find a match.
Well, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we talked about a few weeks ago when, the chat asked, like, what are, realistic options come the trade deadline? And my opinion was, elevate the floor of this team, elevate the bench. Yeah. Just doing that will do wonders for this roster in general. So I think that's the approach they have to take. They went and made their splash signing with Devers. And like a lot of the chat saying, like what you touched on, he's not 100%. He's not injured enough to justify, going on the IL, but he's not healthy. And taking, the week off next week is probably going to do wonders for him. So I think you'll see a much more improved Rafael Devers after that. He's able just to rest that back and rest that groin. But yeah, I mean, it's like you mentioned, you got to do something about these black holes that are consistently popping up, because yes, for the most part, you got a pretty consistent lineup. But like you said, the one kryptonite on this team is going against left-handed pitchers, and it's for the reasons you described. Matos isn't built for this plug and play role. I think they're kind of doing him a disservice of doing that. Yeah, he came through with, a couple nice hits here and there, but just in general, he's not meant for that role. I know Cody will have some thoughts about that here in a second. And then, like you touched on with Kisner, he's not your ideal backup catcher. And yeah, I think there's some minor moves you can make that can really elevate and take the load off on those days in particular. Now, I saw somebody bring up Grant McCray. McCray's definitely been heating up lately. These guys will dive more in on that as far as his specific at-bats and statistics that we're seeing in growth compared to the beginning of the season. I know one of the big issues with him is swing and miss, and it's pretty bad. It's pretty ugly. Strikeout's not pretty, but I mean, he's shown quite a bit of pop. So I'll pass it over to Cody. I know he has some thoughts there, but I wouldn't mind him if he can just kind of cut down on some of that, that swing and miss especially.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm just going to piggyback off what you guys said regarding Matos, because, I mean, you guys pretty much said it all. I mean, we all see it. Swing decisions aren't great in the role he's in. He struggles to get any kind of rhythm at the plate. He makes some swings where, like, he'll show a good approach on some at bats where you're like, okay, that, like, the double against the A's, like, it wasn't just that he hit a double to right, just hit a double in the game. That was a big hit. Like, the way that he actually went to right center and he looked like he had a plan ready to hit one out that way if he got attacked on the outside, which is what teams have been doing to him all year. The fact that he actually looked like he had a plan, I immediately posted. I was like, that's the approach that would get him more opportunities. And then he falls right back and hit, either chasing, hitting everything to the third baseman, shortstop, left fielder, every at bat. And it's like, like that guy, teams know to just pitch him away and he's going to roll it over 9 times out of 10. So he's not adjusting back. And now the chase issue with him, I think we've seen it with Casey and we've seen it with Ramos, that can improve with everyday playing time. So like I'm less concerned about the chase and more just the poor approach at the plate that he has. Because, you know, Schmidt swung at everything. Ramos swung at everything when they first came up. And then with the consistent at bats, we saw that chase go down. So that part I think would improve. But yeah, I mean, I can't have him out there every game rolling the ball over to the third baseman 3 times a day. I mean, yeah, the strikeouts, it's a bit higher than normal. He still strikes out way better than the league average, but he obviously did not see Luzardo very well. But in fairness, nobody seemed to see Luzardo very well in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think Willie had a hat trick too. So yeah, I mean, that was just a rough game all around for the offense. Now regarding Grant McCray, you guys all know I like Grant McCray as a prospect. I know all of us have kind of been in this. He's extremely exciting. He has 4 really, good to great tools between his speed, his glove, his arm. He's got one of the best arms in the system. He's got plus power. Like there's a lot of great things with him. The problem is when you have a 35, 40 grade hit tool, like, and that's not being cruel. I mean, that's just is what it is with him. And you don't make 2-strike adjustments. Like that's a problem. We've seen the strikeout rate get a little better. He's right at 27% right now after today's game. He's got 110 strikeouts in like 407 plate appearances. He's at like 27.02% or something like that. So when you're talking about that kind of strikeout rate in AAA, that's not going to get better magically in the major leagues. Like you're going to show up to the majors and probably have a 35 plus strikeout rate or like 32% or more, which could the Giants theoretically get away with that? Maybe. But the reality is Bob Melvin and Buster Posey going to be willing to let this guy play every day over Mike Yastrzemski? And I think that's a definitive no right now. So unless they're willing to play him every day, I just don't see him being successful in a bench role. Yeah. So I think he's got a chance to give himself an opportunity to be the starter next season. I think that's definitely in play. If he can start making some adjustments, and it's already on the team's radar. Kyle Haynes, he was on Glenn Kuiper last week. He straight up said about Grant McCray, he needs to make a 2-strike adjustment and just simplify things. He used, I think, Zach Neto as an example for that. And maybe Grant has a big second half. He continues being hot. The strikeout rate has improved. He was up over 28%, I think, last week, or near 29%. It's down a couple percentage points. So he has made some improvements there. So I think it's in play for next season. I don't think it's in play for this season, though.
Yeah, for sure. And then, another thing, there's people that prefer to have Marco Luciano up instead. And we're talking about McCray at a 27% K rate. Well, Luciano is actually really, other than in the power department, has been the worst hitter. He's at a 30% K rate. And he has less at bats than McCray, I believe. And at least with McCray, I will say in his defense is he's just a far more dynamic player. You're getting the speed on the bases. You're getting a lot more extra base hits outside of just home runs with him. You see McCray all the time. He's hitting these like little league home runs because outfielders go and try to lay out for his balls and they get to the warning track and then he just takes off. You see him hitting triples off, walls to both sides of the field. You're seeing tons of doubles out of him, and then you're seeing him mix in the power as well. And then you also get high-level defensive play in the outfield with him. So if either of them is going to come up, it would definitely be McCray. But like Cody said, we probably don't see either of them this year at all. And it's really unfortunate because with Luciano, he had his 17th home run of the season tonight. He's been hitting for a ton of power. I mean, shoot, he's going to get real close to 20 at this rate right before the All-Star break. And, he could end up with a 30 home run season, but there's just not enough consistency there. It's home run or bust basically with him right now. And you're not really ever seeing him get off of like a 220, 230 average all year. It's pretty much right around there or lower. So unless you see a little bit more consistency out of him, don't expect to see him at the big league level either.
Yeah,
unfortunately. So
agreed.
And one thing I just want to throw out there for McRae, like he is insanely he is very intriguing just in general. Like if you just look at his numbers this season, the average and OPS don't like jump off the page or anything. He's been essentially a league average hitter in the PCL. He was at a 99 WRC plus, and he went 2 for 5 with a single and a double today. He'll probably be at like 100 or 101 tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But he's got 33 extra base hits and 23 stolen bases already this season. So it's like, dude, just get the ball in play. Like that's all we're asking for here. If he could just put the ball in play and strike out 25% or less of the time, I feel like he could just sleepwalk his way to like a 3-WAR player. You know, like it wouldn't even be hard for him based on how teams value certain things. Like he could just sleepwalk his way to being as valuable, if not more, than what Yastrzemski's given them. But like he's got to put the ball in play, and it's unfortunate that just getting the ball in play consistently is the biggest Achilles heel for him, because that really could limit him from being an everyday player, potential star, to like 4A player. You know, tough to crack a roster like that. It's just that big of a problem. So,
yeah.
And I think the solution ultimately is going to be to trade for a vet, like find some kind of veteran outfielder that can play the corners that you feel good about. I know they've brought up Encarnacion. I think Melvin mentioned him in the last like week or two. Who knows when he's going to be healthy? And we all saw what it looked like a month ago. It's hard to really feel confident in that one. But
not gonna lie, I forgot about him completely.
Yeah.
See him in the dugout every now and then on TV during the games. That's about it. Yeah, I don't know, man. The issue with Encarnacion is you get rid of Wade, you bring in Devers, and you still have that same problem of having too many guys playing the same position. And I mean, Encarnacion looked atrocious at first base, like unplayable there. You already have Dom Smith, who's above average defensively. You have Wilmer, who's pretty average defensively. And then you have Devers, who they do want to slide in there. I still have questions as to whether or not that's actually going to happen this season. But can you really plug Encarnacion in there? And then can you also really justify putting him in right field in Oracle? I don't know, man. Every ball hit in that direction, I'd be very concerned with. So
yeah.
I think it comes down to you just got to make a move for a veteran guy there for some stability.
Yeah. And I'm not sure who all is going to be available, to be perfectly honest, as far as outfielders go that are at least decent. I mean, hey, they could trade for forever giant Austin Slater.
No shot.
Bring you back the Slaz.
No.
None of us want to see that. All right. Well, I think the other big thing is first base as far as this goes, and then we're going to start. We've got some feelings on the way they're setting up the lineup currently, but I feel like the other big thing right now is first base. And if you just look at the season numbers, you know, it's easy to just look at Wilmer and be like, oh, he needs to be out there every day. He's got 50 whatever RBIs. He's been, you know, he has 12 home runs, although I don't think he's hit one in about a month. You know, it's easy to look at Wilmer and feel like on the year, like he needs to be out there every day. But I know these guys are going to give up their thoughts, but I know for me, like watching him play every day, his legs look like they're just not there anymore. And just offensively, it feels like he's lost all the juice that he had. He's not hitting a lot of balls hard. He does, you know, he still gives you a good solid at bat where he'll hit like a line drive, especially runners in scoring position. He's been coming through still. It's funny enough, he hasn't really gotten any RBIs out of it, but I feel like he's got like 3 hits in his last 5 at bats, and just somehow none of them got a guy in, which Dan is loving. I know that, but He'll still give you a good at bat here and there, but you can just tell like his legs are just not there anymore. And then you watch him defensively, and I mean, just the game for Verlander, and ultimately it ended up not mattering. They lost 13-0, but early in the game, he made 2 mistakes that cost Verlander a run in that first run Verlander gave up. So it's like a ball that he just point blank didn't get low enough and whiffed it. It didn't short hop him that Chapman threw to him. And then the other one is just he had 0 range, and a ball that was fair forever he couldn't get to while it was still in fair territory, and it ended up going foul. And it just feels like every time he kicked one the other day that, I mean, they're trying to make excuses for him, like, oh, it took kind of a weird hop, and it's like he didn't even get his glove near the ball. Like, it just completely fanned, not close. Like, it wasn't like he got close to it. Like, it was just, I just watch him defensively, and it is ugly right now. And I don't know how we can justify having him out there over Dom Smith, who's been money for them defensively, and still produces a decent bat. And then it pushes Wilmer into a more friendly role for him where he's a bench player and giving you good late inning at bats. And yeah, he'll start a game or two here and there, but to me, I feel like that has to be the play.
Well, to your point, before the series against Philadelphia, he had 1 RBI in his last 15 games. It was like 41 at bats or something like that. He was hitting like a $113, $115. Like the bat is gone. I mean, yes, he had 3 hits the last couple of games, but look at the contact that was made off of those.
Yeah, they're singles.
Yeah, they were all bloops and really kind of meaningless. I know everybody knows I'm not a Wilmer fan, but I'm just speaking realistically. Him defensively, like, he should not be starting over Dom Smith. Like, matchups aside, I made a post about that. Matchups aside, put all that aside, Dom can pick it. He is an above average. He's a solid glove at first base, and that's what you need. I mean, if you can say that, I hate to use this, comparison, but the saying for Patrick Bailey has always been, well, we don't need him for his bat because he's got a good glove. Well, the same could be said about Dom Smith, except he's got an average bat. And I think especially with guys like you saw Willie Adames' defense, just improve tenfold once Dom Smith started getting regular playing time. And you see Chappie got 2 errors yesterday because Wilmer couldn't pick him, and a competent first baseman is going to pick those every single time. Mm-hmm. So it's little things like that where, yeah, you might miss out on a bloop hit every now and then, but you're going to save your starting pitcher a run, and you're going to save the left side of your infield from committing errors. And I think at the end of the day, that's more valuable than a couple bloop hits and 1 RBI in 15 games. And that's just me.
Yeah. And not to jump Ricky here, but like, you also have Wilmer available for late inning at, whatever at bat you want, basically late in a game, which is like his biggest value he brings to you is good late inning at bats.
And that's not even speaking eye test, which eye test, we all know that's his greatest attribute. If you guys dive deeper into the Wilmer Flores metrics, he is a below average to semi-average hitter between the innings like 1 through 7. And then as soon as the 8th and 9th innings come through, his average bumps up to like 320, 330. Like, he thrives in those scenarios. So if you're presenting a player who is atrocious on defense, who has 0 legs, who's, not giving you much pop or juice, and he can come through with a timely hit in the 8th or 9th inning, what kind of player is that? That is a bench player. That is a pinch hitter. That is the literal definition of one and what you need. So if you're trying to improve your bench, which has already been struggling, we just talked about it with guys like, Wisely and guys like Matos and whatnot, who really aren't doing much and giving you much production off the bench. Plug in Wilmer Flores into your bench for those late inning heroics. That solves that issue right there. So it's a no-brainer in my opinion. I get the fan base loves him. I get he's got 55 RBIs on the year and like 36 of them came in the first 6 weeks. But let's be realistic here for a minute and see what this team needs at this point of the season and what he's going to bring you value-wise. And that's going to be an off-the-bench / pinch hitter.
Yeah. I mean, just starting out with the defense alone, I mean, you guys remember me saying it with Lamont Wade at first, early on in the year, with Willie's throws being kind of in the dirt occasionally. I had said, a lot of stuff is being, overblown about Willie's defense because people look at strictly errors without, having any nuance to that stat. And I said, his error count would be way lower had he had a competent first baseman defensively over there, which Wade was not. He had a couple good picks early on in the season, but he was not reliable over there at first base. And while, yes, we want our left side of our infield to be making good, accurate throws over there, sometimes you're going to be making off-schedule throws, and you need a first baseman over there to pick it. That is literally what they're there for. They play on the most pristine fields. They get the most clean hops over there. They need to be able to pick it. That is one of the most important jobs over there. That is quite literally what they're there for. So when you have a guy like Dom Smith, who is a left-handed bat, similar to Yaz and Wright, with that side of the platoon, why is Dom Smith not getting the same amount of at-bats as Mike Yastrzemski is over there, considering they're rarely facing left-handed pitching? So I honestly don't know why Wilmer isn't, getting put into that kind of a platoon over there where he's getting, maybe 1 or 2 starts a week. And then, like you guys said, everything else is pinch hit at bats. And part of the reason why Wilmer is so much better in those late game situations too is because while his power has completely disappeared, he has no home runs since June 7th, over a month away now. The thing is with him is he's still going to give you quality at bats. He's still going to work counts. He's going to give you a good strikeout to walk ratio. And the other thing too is if he's coming in, with the game on the line, say it's a 1-run game in the 9th inning, and you have a guy on first base, you're going to get no doubles defense out there, and they're going to allow you to hit all those bloop singles. They're not going to come in on you. So it really opens the whole outfield up for Wilmer when he's not hitting over anybody's heads at this point in the season. Everything is in the shallow part of the outfield right now with him. And then, even just besides the home runs, when you look at his slugging percentage per month, it really tells the full story. He was at a 412 slugging percentage for the month of May, went down to a 312 slugging percentage for the month of June, and is now down to a 292 slugging percentage for the month of July. So it's been absolutely atrocious with Wilmer in terms of, hitting doubles and home runs. It has just completely disappeared. And, it's the same thing we've seen with him just about every season. And part of why they wanted him to DH early on in the season, because they knew, like Cody said, once he loses his legs, his power is gone. He's just older and hobbled up now, and he just can't handle a full season like that. And it's kind of like the same thing we're saying with Wade too. Every single season, it's like you see him have some kind of soft tissue injury every single year. He cannot handle the load of a full season as an everyday starter at any position. So it's the same thing with Wilmer. Come to grips with it. Dom Smith is a more than capable hitter. He's one of the few guys in the lineup that consistently hits hard line drives. He gives you pretty good at bats. He's not going to wow you at the plate necessarily, but you're getting above average defense. I mean, that first game of the Phillies series, he absolutely saved a run or two in that game with his glove. And some of those picks he had were not easy. They completely short hopped him on a couple of those throws. And I think we all have all the faith in the world with him over there. So I think he needs to be starting majority of the games for you, and you'll see the lineup have a little bit more consistency.
Absolutely.
And realistically, they'll probably just make it a platoon. I think that's ultimately what we're going to end up looking at. I feel like there's a good chance that Wilmer's going to still get to start versus lefties. It's not going to be normal that they're going to face 5 lefties in 7 games or whatever it was that they just faced. Like, I felt like they were playing one every game. So I do think ultimately he does slip back into that, being more of a, platoon bat pinch hit. Having Devers here, it tanks a lot of Wilmer's value. I mean, the fact that he's just so much better off DHing when you have Devers here, it just takes the one way you could have gotten him in the lineup every day and being somewhat productive, and it takes that option away. I get why they're pushing so hard to try and get Devers at first. Probably not in their best interest though this season, given the groin and back issues that he's dealing with. Yeah. Just let him keep DHing and hopefully he gets going. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about on that one? And then we'll jump over kind of the lineup.
No, I think it's a good time to transition.
Okay. So before we hop in there, I mean, we do have like 150 of you in here. So appreciate all you guys jumping in today or tonight, I should say. But if you guys do enjoy the content we put out, please do hit the like, hit the subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit that bell for notifications. We put the minor league updates out every Tuesday mornings. Live shows every Thursday night. I think it'll probably be every Thursday night for the rest of the season. And then we're going to try and, spit out some videos here and there. We'll do some draft coverage probably this coming week, at least covering the first few picks. I know I don't personally dive too deep in on like a lot of the guys lower down the board, but we're going to talk a little bit about that later tonight as well. And, hopefully we can still snag some interviews here and there. So yeah, if you guys do enjoy it, please do hit the subscribe. It does help a lot. But jumping right over to the lineup. So I know I have some thoughts, and I've compiled some numbers here, and I have some ideas on like, there's kind of two different ways I feel like they could go about this. Cause I don't, now that Chapman's back, the first thing I'm going to say is I do not like where they have him hitting. I don't think that's in the best interest of the club. And I have a bunch of numbers that are going to support that. But I do think there are kind of two options here. And I think the big thing is you got to get Chapman up in the lineup and get him up in front of Devers. Because, and yeah, I mean, we can all talk about how Devers is currently swinging it. I think most of us believe that's going to change sometime, hopefully sooner than later. But similar to with Adames, you're like, okay, this guy's been too good of a hitter for too long. At some point, it's going to come around. But I do think it's important to get Chapman up in front of Devers. And, this is a guy that has over a 350 on base percentage this season, which is kind of nuts. He's like 96 or 97th percentile on both walk rate and chase rate. So he gets on base, like he draws walks. He has plus speed. He's got nice power, obviously, and he does some things really good. Lots of extra base hits, which is great. Set the table in front of the other guys, because the one thing that Matt Chapman does not do well, and they currently have him in a run producing role, is hit with runners in scoring position, where he is this season hitting 209 with a 730 OPS and a 30.6% strikeout rate. And for his career, he's hitting, last season, he hit 230 with a 788 OPS, 27.1% strikeout rate. In his career, he's a 242 hitter, 786, 27.4 strikeout rate. So essentially, you're seeing a guy that's an outhouse or castle option. Yeah. Like, he'll hit some homers, doesn't come through with a ton of hits, though. Struggles tremendously in those situations. We've seen so many times, and even just this last week, he had opportunities where he just needed a sac fly, couldn't get the guy in. Willie picked him up like 2 times in a row against Sacramento the other day. Now, the converse of this is right now you've got Elliot Ramos hitting leadoff, who, he does get on base at a pretty good clip, but he's not getting on like Chapman is. And then you look at Elliot Ramos's career numbers with runners in scoring position. He's a 284 hitter with 781 OPS. So like, he's a guy that, similar strikeout rates, but he's a guy that comes through with the hits way more frequently. So to me, like, the easy solution, I'm going to give you guys kind of two options. I'll get your guys' thoughts on this. To me, the easy solution is swap those guys, have Ramos hitting either third or fourth behind Devers with Adames, right there with them. They need to get rid of this whole right, left crap. Just get your 2 run producers behind Devers, in my opinion. But the easy solution would be swap them. The other one I could see, and I have some more to support this. The other one I could see is, if you do want to keep Ramos where he's at, would actually be to bump Devers to third and have Chapman hit second, where it's actually been his best spot in the lineup his entire career. He's got a 258 average, 832 OPS. It's both his highest average and highest OPS of any spot in the lineup. So I feel like that would be the other solution, and then go Devers third, Willie fourth. But like, to me, you've got to get Chapman up in the lineup. I don't think having him hitting cleanup is in the best interest of this club right now.
So to your point there, because that's kind of what I was thinking. In my opinion, your 2 through 5 should go Chapman 2, Devers 3, Ramos 4, Willie 5. Like you mentioned, screw the right, left. I think the 2 through 5, when you're looking for run producers in your lineup, and I've been saying this since the day we press go live on the show 2 years ago, put your guys in the best position to help the team and them succeed. And as you mentioned with those numbers, like, these are the roles that are best suited for these guys. So whatever you want to do at leadoff, whether you want to go Yaz or whether Jung Hoo Lee finally figures it out again and you want to plug him there, whatever goes there, you can make that interchangeable with the 1 through 6 hole. KC 7, and then who am I missing? Yeah, Bailey, wherever, who cares about him. But you know what I mean with the meat of your lineup, the 2 through 5. That's what I really think you should do. So in an ideal world, you'd have an actual leadoff hitter to set the table for Chapman. You know, maybe he can get him to move over. Maybe, you know, he can draw a walk, whatever it's going to do. And then you get the Devers, Ramos, Adames guys coming up with runners on base. Then you're setting yourself up for success. That's how I think they should go through and do it. I mean, if you guys have a different opinion, feel free. But just in my opinion, the 1, 6, 7, 8, 9 hole, those are interchangeable. The 2 through 5 should really be set with those core guys.
Yeah, me personally, until Lee shows some sign of life and that he can be a competent hitter again and not just hit lazy fly balls, I feel like you pretty much have to keep Ramos in the leadoff spot. I don't really feel like you have any other choice. I know they like to throw Yaz up there. I really don't like Yaz leading off whatsoever, even if it's against right-handed pitching. I prefer to keep him down at the bottom, where I feel like he's been a lot more of a competent hitter. And I feel like with Yaz hitting, say, 7th or even 8th and hitting in front of Bailey, I feel like it's not as bad. It feels like you're stretching out the lineup a little bit because you're not really putting as much pressure on him to do anything, but he can kind of be a little bit of a table setter at times down there when you get to that bottom half of the lineup, saying like the, you know, 3rd inning or whatever. And then you have Bailey coming up after him. If Bailey's not hitting into a double play, then you have Yaz on base with a little bit of speed. And then you have Ramos come up after him. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of prefer Ramos first, then going with Chapman in the 2 hole, like you said, having Devers down to 3, Willie down to 4, especially with the way he's been hitting as of late. And then going and separating right and left a tiny bit with Dom Smith after Willie hitting 5th, and then going down to Casey and Lee after that. That's kind of where I'm at. I like Dom getting those opportunities hitting 5th because I feel like you're just getting a lot more consistency out of those at bats. He's a guy that, you know, if any one of those top 4 guys is getting on 3rd base with less than 2 outs, I really trust Dom Smith to get you a deep fly ball and giving you that veteran at bat up there with a runner in scoring position, even if it's just moving a guy over with a fly ball. I just feel like I like him there a little bit more than, say, a Yaz, a Schmidt, or a Lee right after cleanup.
And I agree with you guys. I do prefer the option of keeping Ramos up and just moving Chapman right behind him. I just was like, these are like kind of the 2 solutions I can see with what they've got. Yeah. And there is kind of an option 3 would have been putting Yaz up there if you did want to try and go a little more right, left, or whatever. At the end of the day, you would need to, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to go 2 righties in a row. Cause I think you have to go Ramos, Adames in whatever order behind Devers. Like, we can't be bumping one of those guys behind a lefty just for the sake of it being right, left. Like, that's the part where I don't like it. But yeah, I mean, like, to me, that if keep Ramos up there, he's actually one of the best on the team with a 343 on base, which is perfect. And a guy on first is perfect for Chapman. And we saw it multiple times this season, because what's the one thing that Chapman does exceptionally well? Hit the ball on the right side.
Yeah.
Right,
I was going to say
big asshole is.
get him more fastballs, more, predictable counts, and then taking advantage of that hole that way for sure. That's exactly what my thought was with him in the 2-hole for sure. And, if Lee does end up picking it up in the second half, which I do think he'll come around, especially with that little bit of a break, they get like 5 days off or something like that with the All-Star break. I think that will help Lee out a lot. I think just when we saw him, I want to say it was the Arizona series recently, Lee got that day off and he came back hitting a lot better than the last 2 games of the Diamondbacks series. So I think with the All-Star break, Lee will come back a lot fresher since he hasn't really experienced a full 162 yet. And I think he'll be a lot better offensively after that. And if he does pick it up, then you go and slide Lee right back into the leadoff spot. And then it makes the whole lineup a hell of a lot better because you have Lee where he really should be hitting when he's right. And then you can go and protect Devers by having Ramos hit behind him. And then you can ideally move Chapman down to like 5 or 6 if you want, which is more of a fitting spot for him and a little bit less pressure. And then the bottom of your order looks really good again. So it looks a lot deeper.
Yeah. When you're hitting Lee and Schmidt at like 6-7 or 7-8 or whatever, however they line it up, like if you've got Lee and Schmidt hitting in the 5 through 7 spots or 6 through 8, whatever, wherever, that lineup is just so much better than what we saw trotting out there for a while.
Yeah.
So it's just a massive difference. And JR, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit here. I mean, part of why you could put Ramos back is for more protection, but you are giving Devers protection. Like you have Adames. And we all saw what Adames looked like early in the year. Like, don't get me wrong. We all saw it. It was ugly. But in his last 30 games, he's hitting 276 with if my math is correct here, 6 home runs, 19 RBIs, and an 844 OPS. Like, that guy's protecting plenty at the moment. Yeah. And if you go even just this last week, basically, he's got 8 RBIs. So he's been producing. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think overall, I think Devers will look a lot better as well after the break. I think all these guys just getting a little bit of rest will really kind of be a nice reset for all of them. And then I just think that will clear everything up in general. Like you guys said, if you have Devers, more importantly, getting that protection with Ramos hitting behind him, you might start seeing Devers stop chasing so many of those high fastballs up above the zone. And then what ends up happening is you get Devers in a lot of good counts and getting a lot of fastballs up over the plate and putting him in a lot better position to hit.
Mm-hmm. I put this up just to get a reaction out of Dan.
I chose to ignore it.
That's awesome. Oh man. But
hey, he jokes, but there was a point in time where Bob was consistently putting Bailey in the 4 and 5 holes, and I wanted to rip my hair out.
Yeah. Those were dark times in 2024.
My God.
Dude. What are we doing? This guy has 0 power, 0 average. What is the upside here? It's crazy.
Yeah. Robert, no, I would not right now. I'd need to see a lot more.
Not.
Yeah. The funny thing is, if Grant McRae could just put the ball in play consistently, he'd be an ideal leadoff.
You're not lying.
But yeah, that's a tough one. Thinking about it, get a backup for Bailey. What about trying to get Austin Wins? Didn't he get traded to someone?
I do believe the Reds DFA'd him.
He was DFA'd and then flipped.
Yeah.
I don't know
Oh,
where, but
the A's.
You're right. I remember I made the joke that that the Sacramento A's had 2 catchers that hit better than our one.
Yeah, you guys don't want to. You guys don't want to know Austin Wins is hitting right now either.
What's he hitting?
It's 291. I see it.
291 with 5 home runs and 19 RBIs.
Dang.
Could you imagine if our backup catcher has better numbers than our starting catcher? Oh boy. 854 OPS too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean Murphy would be cool. It's just, I don't know. He's got a pretty hefty contract still attached to him.
Yeah, he's got like 3.5 years and 52.5 million ish.
That
I'm not going to round it. I'm not going to figure out the exact prorated amount for this season, but so I just cut it in half on the annual.
For a backup, that's insane though.
Oh, if you make that deal, he's not backing up.
Exactly.
If
Bailey's probably going to Atlanta.
Or Bailey goes back to Atlanta and they can have their 2 catchers that are cheap.
I 100% think Bailey would be involved in that deal.
Then I'm all for it.
You can't trade for Sean Murphy and then have Bailey pouting on the bench. You know, that's just it's going to be way too problematic.
All jokes aside, I think Sean Murphy would be great on this team. I mean, he's played under Bomel before. You know, he's got a great glove, great bat. I mean, he's only like 30, I believe.
He's got an absolute hose of an arm.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Gold Glove winner.
He was pissing me off when the Giants played Atlanta at home. What was it, last month? I mean, he had to have hosed like 4 Giants runners. Yeah, he has an absolute cannon.
And you know, his bat would actually the power theoretically would play pretty decently in Oracle, just the way it's, you know, pull in center field. You know, he doesn't rely on a bunch to the Alpo. So I think his power could actually play decent in this park. But I mean, realistically, they're gonna probably roll with Bailey for at least another year. Mm-hmm. But I think that should bring us into our last topic of the day today. We're gonna do a little draft preview. The first round, or I don't actually know how many rounds I do the first day, but the first day of the draft is going to be on Sunday, and it's a 2-day draft. Obviously, it's going to be the 13th and 14th. Like I said, we're hoping to put something out. Maybe we'll do something Sunday night. I don't know. It probably wouldn't be a live show, but you know, maybe we'll talk a little bit about whoever they end up drafting. But we kind of wanted to highlight a handful of guys here because we're seeing, you know, the general consensus out there. It does seem to link the Giants to a lot of kind of prep shortstops. We brought up going catcher earlier in the year. I've kind of pivoted off like the need to do that in the first round. I am still a very strong believer that it needs to be done in the first 3 picks. Like they have a first, third, and fourth round pick. Like, I don't care. Take one in the third or fourth. That's fine. I still think it's something that desperately needs to be addressed in the system. It's just too big of a hole organizationally. So, but let's look at a few people and what guys do you guys really like that are reasonable? I mean, yeah, I'm sure all of us would love to be like, hey, let's get Ethan Holiday, but you know, that's not going to happen.
You guys know who I want. Look at Irish, baby. Irish. Bring him to San Francisco. That's who I want. Now, is it realistic? Probably not, but he might go top 10. But either him or a guy that you guys pointed out a few days ago, was it Jace Laviolette, or I don't know how to say his last name. Laviolette. Yeah, I would say either him or Ike Irish. That's who I want. I know I asked you guys about, you know, why shortstops are being mocked to us so often, and you guys gave me a pretty good rundown as far as that. But just looking at the bat profiles for both of those guys, from what research I've done on them, with a farm system that's lacking like legitimate power threats or just overall upside with the bat, and we've been lacking in that department before Bryce Aldridge for quite some time. I really think you got to go big or go home on a guy like that. I mean, Ike Irish, yeah, he's kind of like a 50-50 catcher or outfielder. They're saying he's probably going to go primarily outfielder. I mean, his bat itself is insane. I would draft him just on that alone. But yeah, those are the two guys that I'm after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Laviolette and Irish for the exact same reasons. I think the Giants absolutely need to add some high-end power to the top of their farm system. I think when they traded Tibbs for Devers, that left a big hole at the top end of their top prospect list. And I would just like to see somebody out of the college ranks with that kind of power and somebody that could potentially move up pretty quick, and just kind of add a little bit more value to the farm system. And, if it ends up being one of those two guys and they just end up needing to be a big time trade chip for some big name player, a year or two down the road, so be it. Both of those guys, without a doubt, will absolutely rake at both single A and high A. And at least that way, you have some pretty reliable production out of that first round pick, something they really need. You cannot afford to have this be another Hunter Bishop type pick and then just have a huge hole on the top end of your farm system. Go and get a guy like that that's just going to rake at that lower level pitching. And then if you're kind of having some concerns with chase rate early on, but their numbers are kind of being covered up by just a ton of power, go and trade them and have them be like that James Tibbs type player. That's why a lot of us on here were big on that pick, because even if people thought he wasn't the greatest fit for Oracle Park, you have to look at these guys beyond just the fit position wise and for the stadium they're going to play in. These guys are assets and nothing else. That's purely what they are. You cannot just strictly look at how they might fit in Oracle, because there's so oftentimes guys move teams numerous times. So Nathan,
we'll pull that on the screen here later after this topic. But yeah, I mean, I've got kind of two names circled right now that I think that if either is on the board, there's to me, there's no chance they're going a different pick like that. I genuinely think if either Casey Cunningham or Ike Irish is on the board, one of those guys is going to get picked. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but it just the way they're talking about how they're being linked to a lot of prep shortstops, I think that's going to be the guy they target if he's there. I think if Irish is there, it's kind of like what these guys are saying. The bat is so good that it's one of those, you just draft it, get it in the system, and figure out the defensive position. Like, you're not doing it to be the catcher of the future. You're not doing it to be the right fielder. You're doing it because you're like, this dude can rake, and we'll figure out where to put him. Because you're still going to probably have a year or two to do that. So, like, if you're going to go that route, like, that's why. And the point with the shortstop thing to me is really interesting, because the rationale behind doing it makes perfect sense. Quick twitch guy, usually the most athletic guy on the field, or one of, between them and the center fielder, like one of the most athletic guys on the field. Even if they don't stick at shortstop, you can usually move them all around. It's been proven a lot that you can put them, infield or outfield, moving them around. So it does make a sense there. And they're usually incredibly valuable as an asset. And like, Ricky just said, at the end of the day, this is asset accumulation first and foremost. You hope they turn into stars, but even if they don't, you hope they turn into a star either themselves or via trade. So, that is the big thing. I don't think, young shortstop is necessarily the top of this team's need, especially when you have Johnny Level in, you have Walker Martin, who's probably going to have to ultimately move off of short, but you have Walker Martin. Then in Arizona right now, you have Johnny Level, who looks like an absolute stud right now and is probably going to get bumped up to San Jose to finish the season. In the Dominican, you have Joshua Gonzalez, who just got moved to the Baseball America Top 100. and which is incredibly rare for everyone, for someone that's in the Dominican Summer League still. And all the scouts are still raving about him. They just, everybody over there, even though the power really hasn't shown up, everybody over there is like absolutely raving about him, going, this guy absolutely will stick at shortstop. And he has the makings of like an elite table setter. There's a reason why he's getting comps to like Francisco Lindor and Jose Reyes. Like that's how they look at this guy. And then in next year's international signing period, right now they have an agreement with Luis Hernandez, who, you know, maybe he sticks at shortstop, maybe he doesn't, but you watch the guy hit, who's playing in like a Venezuelan pro league at 15 years old right now. And you see this guy playing and you're like, this guy is also looks really good. So they have kind of all those young shortstops. So I don't think it's necessarily the biggest need, but it is also the most valuable position when you draft guys at that. So it makes a ton of sense there. I think Case and Cunningham, to me, elite hit tool, elite, you know, maybe not quite elite speed, but very high end speed. And the power is a bit lacking, but he's only 18 years old, a little bit wiry frame. Like he could certainly fill out a little bit and add some pop. I like, to me, that's, and they believe he'll stick it short. So that is the pick for me if he's there. Although if Irish is there also, I probably just say screw it and go Irish. But like, to me, one of those two guys. Now behind that, I think all of us are on the same page of like, I just don't want to see Merrick Houston. Like, I feel like that's the floor pick and not the ceiling pick. But they do have some options. Tyler Bremner has been kind of linked to them. Steele Hall has been mocked to them a couple times. Baseball America Today linked them to Wahiwa Aloy. I may have
Wahiwa Aloy.
Wahiwa.
Yeah, he was actually one of the guys I was going to bring up. So Kason Cunningham's like the high school guy that I would go with, because we have heard, you know, Roger talked about how they're looking into these more athletic high school shortstops. If we're going the high school route, Kason Cunningham's definitely the one guy I would like, just because I feel like the floor is pretty good with him, and I feel like he has a pretty reachable ceiling. Now on the college side, Wahiwa Aloy, he actually just won the Golden Spikes Award. So he's risen up draft boards pretty quickly. He actually is a Sac State guy. He moved over to Arkansas and not only tore it up there as a shortstop, has a ton of power. They gave him a 55 grade for power. I honestly think he's more of a 60 grade. I've seen him hit for a ton of power to all fields. And in the Cape Cod League, he was third in home runs last season. Or last summer with 8 in 21 games. So, you know, the power is 100% legit, and he's a violent swinger, big, tall guy. They do think he might move over to second base, but he's pretty good athlete, just not a ton of speed. And it didn't seem like range was a huge issue for him. It's just more on the base paths. You're not going to see a huge burner, but he's a guy I would definitely be intrigued with the Giants getting. And I definitely think he'll be there for the Giants in the middle of the first, but you never know, because you do see these college guys rise pretty quickly in the first round, and sometimes teams will reach for that. But 21 years old and ton of upside with him. I think he's got a pretty good hit tool. Like I said, the power is really good, and the only major concern with him is there is a little bit of chase in there at times, but he's definitely one of the guys I would covet after, you know, Kaysen, Ike Irish, and Laviolette. Laviolette and Aloy, I think, are the two most likely to be there at the Giants pick. I definitely could see Irish going like 2 or 3 spots before the Giants pick. And then Kaysen Cunningham might as well. He was like graded out as the top high school hitter in this draft for shortstops. So,
yeah. So here, if Kaysen and Irish are both off the board, who you pick?
Jace.
I think Jace has a really high floor. Like I said, as somebody that could come into the minors and just absolutely tear it up and be a really good trade chip. I do have some concerns that he could be like a Joey Gallo, who absolutely destroyed minor league pitching, came up and was really good early on, and then his career just faded super quickly because of the high chase. So I would be fine with that. Now, as somebody who I would actually want to get through the Giant system and stick long term, I would definitely take Eloy there. I think he would actually be a guy that would actually fit the ballpark and would be a guy who could rise through the system within 2.5 years.
Yeah.
2 seasons, something like that.
Dan, you said Jace?
I said Jace. It's just, I mean, I totally hear you out that Eloy's probably a better fit for the park. It's just, I'm all for getting that physical specimen of just an animal in your farm system. And that's what Jace brings you. Just that legitimate power threat that's going to strike fear into teams. Like, I want that. That's what we have with Bryce Eldridge. And I would just go Jace. I mean, obviously, those first two you mentioned, either Cunningham or Irish, those are probably the preferred picks. But if they're both gone, give me that just absolute monster in Jace.
Yeah, I will say, because I know Ricky mentioned earlier, like, we don't want to get another Bishop. And that is kind of my fear with Jace. It's
a perfectly reasonable
kind
fear.
of a physical freak. I mean, Bishop, he's probably got a little bit more physical attributes, obviously, than Hunter Bishop did. Bishop does have really good speed and power combo. The hit tools never really materialized for him. But like, that's the fear for me, would be like the swing and miss just completely holds him back and everything. So I'd probably lean Eloy too. Not trying to like be like, oh, I'd make this pick scared, but I do like Eloy enough that I think I would probably lean that route.
He's probably a safer pick, realistically.
Yeah, I don't think his ceiling's obviously not as high. Like, Jace is just a complete, home run swing. Like, that's just, I'm either gonna strike out or I'm gonna just hit a tank here, because this guy, I don't feel like there's like that in between. Like, I feel like it's just super high end ceiling, and I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily think he's got a high floor on that.
You're not wrong.
Funny enough, one of the other guys that the Giants have been mocked to more recently, I feel like, is actually more of the Hunter Bishop in this draft, which is Brendan Summerhill. He's kind of he's a pretty polished player overall. He's out of University of Arizona. He's 21. He's pretty consistent all the way around player. The one thing that is kind of lacking that he's only shown glimpses of is his power. And he's just kind of one of those classic, like, higher floor college guys that has a lot of the attributes. Is a pretty good runner, pretty good thrower, pretty good defender in the outfield. Doesn't really have any elite tools, but he's pretty solid in like almost every category, except for his power is still kind of developing. And that's one of those ones that would really concern me, because the Giants just do not have a track record at all of developing power. So he's a guy that would be someone you could look out for. If the Giants do go that route, I would be a little bit worried with that pick. He is a guy, though, if he does tap into his power, he could end up being like a Cody Bellinger type. That's the kind of guy, the kind of player he is, if he taps into that ceiling with his power. But yeah, he's the one I'd be a little bit worried with, because, you're looking at a 21-year-old, he's 22 when he spends his first full season in San Jose. If his numbers aren't off the charts there, his prospect status goes way down quickly. And then now you have a 23-year-old in Eugene who might not be lighting it up. And then it's like, he's not a guy you would see high up in the top 100 prospects in the MLB after the draft. Laviolette, I could absolutely see sliding right into the Giants' number 2 spot behind Eldridge, and being like a 80 to 90 range guy, just because he's a physical freak. The dude's massive, has enormous power. So huge upside pick. I'd support it 100%. If I had to take a guess, I don't think they'll go Laviolette. Doesn't seem like the Giants type at all. but I would be super stoked if they made that pick.
See, this is kind of emphasizing what my point was.
Yeah, like Audie says here, that's the thing. We can't afford more pretty solid players. We have enough of those in our farm system. And Ricky just said kind of the same thing too, where the state of the system right now, especially when you're looking for trade assets around the league, you need more of these high profile, like high upside, high ceiling players in the system. I do think it's better than what the top 100 lists show. Like currently right now, the top 100 lists have the Giants at 2 top 100 prospects. Bryce Eldridge at number 23, Josh Gonzalez at number 100. I think personally, Bo Davidson and Dakota Jordan and Johnny Level, I think all three of those guys are top 100 caliber prospects, high ceiling, toolsy players at just the position side of things. Now, if you can go into the pitchers, they've got a lot of guys down in Arizona with like Argenis Kayama, Luis De La Torre just made his debut in San Jose. Jacob Bresnahan looks really electric in San Jose. They've got a few other guys that have been throwing the ball well in the lower levels. So maybe they do have some pitchers that ultimately can crack that list. But like I said, just on the position player side, they've got some guys that I think are going to be pretty high-end prospects here soon enough. But that doesn't mean go and draft a guy that's like even we saw it with Tibbs. He debuted on the top 100 list, had kind of some struggles in high A, fell immediately off the list. And he's having a good year this season, but he still hasn't climbed back on. So like they've got to get these, like draft the tools and ceiling. So that's where I would definitely agree with these guys. Like you got to go a bit more aggressive with that first round pick. Now, the third and fourth round, I would just kind of stay on the same trend, draft for tools. I do want to see a catcher in there with one of those picks, but the two of your top three picks should be for tools. I want to see a catcher with one of them. And then after that, you can make some of those safer picks when you get to the 6th, 7th rounds or whatever. You can start making some of those picks for guys that you feel like kind of fit your development better.
No, absolutely.
And that's where I do like the Aloy pick a little bit. You've seen him in the Cape Cod and in high level D1 baseball for one of the top teams in the country. Really put his power on full display. And I mean, anytime a guy's winning the Golden Spikes, that's a legit hitter you're getting. That's not some guy that's just showing off the glove, like this is Charlie Condon was absolutely nasty at Georgia. He won it last year. You've had guys like Buster Posey, Adley Rutschman. Like these are legit hitters that are winning that award. So you know what you're getting in him. And like I said, the power is big time. This is not like a safe type pick. Like this is a guy that will have a high ceiling and will absolutely be up there on prospect lists as well as Laviolette.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's all I got on this topic.
We'll probably go more in depth on that this weekend.
Yeah, once they've made the picks, like I said, we'll see if we can whip something together for you guys. Maybe Sunday or Monday or something like that. We'll see what we can do.
It's just so hard to mock and predict the draft because, like you saw with Dakota Jordan as a prime example, he was a sure first round pick and then he dropped 2 rounds just because of eligibility, signing, all that. I mean, a lot of factors go into play with the MLB draft for some reason. So it's like Joe mentioned in the comments, of course you would love to take a guy that's going to be a for sure star player, but it's not like the NFL draft where you're guaranteed one top 3, top 4. It's just a lot. There's a lot more hit or miss when it comes to MLB draft, unfortunately. So
it's tough. All right. So people, we're probably going to wrap this up in about 7 or 8 minutes. Try and stop this thing at 10:30. If you guys have any other topics you want us to touch on really quick, he paid the fee, so we've got to put this up on the board just to have some fun with it.
he said that to piss me off.
Does this every show. He puts something outrageous out there for us. Send Devers down to AAA, bring up Wade Meckler. No, I just quit if we saw that happen.
No, definitely not.
Like, all right, I'm head out. The SpongeBob gif or whatever it is.
So we haven't talked about it yet, but since we're nearing the end of the show, What are you guys' thoughts on our good friend Dave Flemming's brother? And those Boston comments.
Well, let's start
Will
out
Clark
with
comments.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's start out with Will Clark's comments on what is it, the No Filter Network with Eric Burns. They do a podcast together, by the way. If any of you guys don't know, it's called Deuces Wild. Will Clark pretty much, he pretty much cleared the air on the situation where he had a conversation about Devers with Will Flemming, Dave Flemming's brother, who is a broadcaster for the Boston Red Sox, who went on a separate show and basically continued doing the Boston thing, which is giving Rafael Devers a bunch of crap, blowing things out of proportion, making things up that basically never were said and didn't happen. So essentially what happened was Rafael Devers was invited to do a fielding session at first base with Will Clark, and Will Clark was in town for the weekend series against the Red Sox, and Devers declined, stating he was a little hesitant to do that because he would literally be practicing defensive drills at first base right in front of the Red Sox dugout right after he was just traded, less than a week prior by the Red Sox. So he didn't want to come off as disrespectful and rub it in their face after he refused to play first base for them. Totally fair. However, Will Flemming blew it out of proportion and said that he was basically blowing off Will Clark and not wanting to do it. And here we go again. And he's doing what he did in Boston and, making out to be like an attitude and a work ethic thing. And Will Clark basically just cleared the air and said that's absolutely not what happened, and they still plan on getting that work in later. So, classic Boston media.
Much ado about nothing.
I might have paraphrased slightly.
I paraphrased in a very G-rated version of what Will Clark said. He had some choice words.
Yeah, but I mean, if anybody that knows Will Clark knows his personality. I mean, it's not like this is coming out of nowhere. This is who he is. Like, he's a very unfiltered guy. But yeah, it's just a bunch of BS in my opinion, man. Like, trying to blow things out of proportion for no reason.
Yeah.
The thing is, he's been working at first base ever since that series ended. So it's not like it's a lack of, work ethic or anything. And they've already said they're going to get together when Will's in San Francisco. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah. Just no matter how you feel about Will Clark, like, I know that he's not for everybody. Like, a lot of old school people love him. A lot of the newer school people, they don't like him at all because he is, kind of to Daniel's point, he is a bit of a red ass. Like, that's just his style. So he's not for everyone. Like, that's fine. I get that. But no matter your opinion on Will Clark, like, it doesn't change the fact that Will Flemming basically took one sentence from his entire thing, removed all context, and then tried to blow it up into this big story.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, I don't like saying it like this because, I mean, it does come, this is pretty pointed, but like, to me, there is no journalistic integrity when you do that. Like, that's ridiculous. And everybody ran with it. Boston media going, "Oh my God, see, look, he's doing the same crap." And it's like, guys, like Ricky said, like, he's just not going to do it right in front of the Boston dugout. That doesn't mean he's not going to do it. Not to mention, he's been dealing with a groin and back injury since he's been here. So it's not an unwillingness. He's still putting work in at first base. It's just like it did not line up appropriately there. Like, it was just not something he was comfortable doing with in that situation. So, like, I get Will Clark coming out and basically being like, F you, dude. Like, that's not at all what was said and what was put out there because of the fact that they removed all the context. So, like, I get both sides of that, but like, I can't say, let me rephrase that. I get Will Clark's side. I get Boston reacting the way they did when they heard the comments, but I think Flemming just epically dropped the ball in the way he handled that. And also kind of add to that, like, did you guys see some of the headlines from Bay Area media
Yeah,
like
man.
NBC and some of them. It's like, come on. Like, are we really going to fan the Flames on this?
Everybody's just trying to get clickbait, bro. That's really
Yeah,
what it
100%.
is.
Just ridiculous. So,
yeah, it's just, I personally think when, I personally think it's pretty low level crap from a guy who's representing the Red Sox organization as their broadcaster to be going out and knowing the context and knowing the full conversation and still continuing to put out crap that's completely false. And, leave it up to Boston to completely blow crap out of proportion and not actually report things objectively and the way they were actually said originally. It's just it's low level crap, and it's so funny because after the trade, you see all this coping from the Red Sox fans, their organization, ex-players saying, "Oh, don't worry, we're going to get somebody better than Devers now that we've saved all that money." Well, guess what? Newsflash, you are not going to get a 28-year-old top 15 in baseball hitter for $200 million.
Yeah.
And you better hope like hell Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, and Marcelo Meyer all pan out to be half of the player Devers was for them, who won a World Series for them too, keep in mind. It's pretty hilarious. And it's like you guys are just digging yourself in deeper, and players around the league see that crap and they're like, that organization is an absolute shit show. I'm not going to play with them. I'll go take the Yankees money instead.
I had this Boston fan on X who tried to clap back at Will Clark. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's kind of blowing up. He says the worst guy in the sport trying to throw shade at the best radio voice in the league. Yeah, unconcerned, to be honest. And I clapped back and I was like, he's not even the best radio voice in his family. He's getting blamed for that. But no, it's kind of crazy because during the Boston series, like you had the Flemming brothers in the booth together, and like a bunch of Giants fans were like, "Oh, that's super cool!" Like cool, yeah. Will seems like a great guy. And then now we're just like, man, screw that.
Yeah. You're not welcome around here anymore.
Yeah,
Next time they play here. Oh man, yeah, pretty crazy.
Over under 3.5 Will Clark's Jack and Cokes during the show is probably over. Not gonna
How long do his shows run? I can't say I've ever watched more than like 5-10 minutes at a time. I see all the clips. They put out some good clips, but I mean, my understanding is he like pours he pours some drinks out like right at the beginning and then just sits there and drinks it the whole time. So.
Hey, there's been times I've wanted to do a little caveman rant like Will Clark style, but I try to keep it PG on here.
Yeah. We try to not get our channel shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
The difference is they're two very successful ex-MLB players, and their podcast network is literally called No Filter Network. So you know what you're getting yourself into.
That's true.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's a good one to leave it off on. I'm kind of skimming through these, see if we kind of touched on this. I mean, I don't think Luciano's coming back this season. Mm-hmm. Maybe he plays his way into having a shot out of spring, but I think McRae is much more likely, or Matos. Yeah, I pulled it up for a second. Ocean's Home. Will calling Devers Devers was funny as hell. 100%. Yeah, Will Clark kept in Devers and didn't want to come out. I was rolling pretty hard at that too. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. But yeah, we'll have some more content out. Like I said, every Thursday night we'll have live shows here out for the rest of the season. Maybe the off season we might go back to Fridays. We'll see. But for the time being, we'll keep it on Thursdays. Minor league update next Tuesday. We'll probably have a draft video. We'll cut up parts of this video and put out a couple segments, but we'll probably have the draft video maybe Sunday night. Like I said, we'll try to do something there. But yeah, appreciate everybody stopping by. We had like 190 of you guys in here at one point. So like I said earlier, if you're not subscribed already, if you're over on the other X or Instagram or whatever, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you over on YouTube. We'll do another giveaway at 2,000 subs. We're 170 or so off, but I think we can get there probably in a month or two. So,
yes, sir.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys. Go Giants, and we'll catch you next week.